The stars looked peaceful from Earth. People went about their daily lives without knowing that 3,000 light-years away, a council of alien beings was deciding whether humanity should live or die. High Counselor Thara of the Vashtai floated above the crystal podium in the grand chamber. Her ethereal form shimmered like captured starlight, and her voice carried the weight of 3 millennia of galactic rule. Around the vast circular chamber, representatives from dozens of species waited for her judgment. The matter of Silent Zone 7734 requires immediate attention, Thara announced. Her words echoed through the chamber's perfect acoustics. The primitives inhabiting the third planet have advanced beyond acceptable parameters. Commander Krell of the Crone Empire stepped forward. His massive frame dwarfed most other beings in the chamber. Battle scars covered his gray hide and his forearms remained perfectly still in military posture. High Counselor, my forces stand ready to implement cleansing protocols. Humans have developed nuclear weapons and crude space travel. History shows us what happens when such species are left unchecked. The Vashtai had ruled the galaxy for longer than most species could remember. They claimed to bring peace and order to the stars. In reality, they maintained control through fear and careful management of other races. Every species was classified and given a role in their empire. The Crones served as their military arm. The spider-like Nexari handled administration. The crystalline Omiri processed information and communications, but some species never made it into the empire. These were placed in silent zones and watched. If they showed promise, they might eventually be contacted and given a place in the hierarchy. If they proved too dangerous or aggressive, they are eliminated. Earth had been under observation for 200 years. Dr. Elena Vasquez didn't know about any of this as she worked late in her laboratory at the International Space Research Center. She was studying gravitational anomalies detected by the newest deep space sensors. The readings made no sense according to current physics. Large masses seemed to exist in areas of space that should be empty. Computer, show me the data from Sector 7 again, she said, rubbing her tired eyes. The holographic display showed a 3-dimensional map of nearby star systems. Red dots marked areas where the gravitational readings suggested massive objects, but telescopes showed nothing there. Elena had been working on this puzzle for months. The objects were too large to be ships, too regular to be natural phenomena, and too well positioned to be coincidental. They formed a rough sphere around the solar system, positioned at key points that would allow monitoring of all traffic in and out. She didn't realize she was looking at the Concorde's quarantine boundary. In the council chamber, the debate continued. Representative Quill of the Nexari clicked his mandibles nervously. Perhaps we should consider extending the observation period. Humans show remarkable adaptability. They might prove useful if properly guided. Useful? Commander Krell's voice boomed through the chamber. They wage constant war among themselves. They poison their own planet. They create weapons of mass destruction within centuries of developing industry. They are the definition of a dangerous species. Counselor Mean of the peaceful Thilnari spoke softly. Many species go through difficult adolescent phases. Humans have also shown great creativity and problem-solving abilities. They have produced art, music, and literature of surprising quality. Irrelevant, Zathara declared. The safety of the galaxy takes priority over artistic achievement. Commander Krell, present your analysis. Krell activated a holographic display showing Earth. The human population is 8 billion and growing rapidly. Nuclear weapons over 10,000 warheads. Space capability, primitive but advancing quickly. Military technology is crude but effective. Assessment high threat level, if allowed to develop further. What the Concorded didn't know was that human development had accelerated far beyond their observations. The breakthrough had come 3 years ago, when a mining operation on the moon discovered wreckage from an ancient alien scout ship. The technology was millions of years old, but human scientists had managed to reverse engineer key components. Dr. Marcus Webb led the secret project from a hidden facility built inside an asteroid. His team had successfully created humanity's first faster-than-light drive. It wasn't elegant like Concorde technology, but it worked. Final test sequence initiated, Webb announced to his team. Before them, the prototype ship Prometheus hung in the asteroid's modified cargo bay. It looked like a human destroyer that had been rebuilt with alien components bolted onto its hull. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the pilot seat running through her pre-flight checklist. She was a former military pilot chosen for her skill and ability to think quickly under pressure. All systems showing a green FTL drive are stable. We're ready for the test jump. The plan was simple. Jump to the edge of the solar system, gather data, and return. Nobody expected to find anything there. The jump was just to test the drive systems. Back in the council chamber, the vote was nearly unanimous. Only the Thelnari representative objected to immediate cleansing. Even the normally cautious Nexari supported action. The motion passes, Zathara announced. Commander Krell, you will take a standard cleansing fleet to Silent Zone 7734. Eliminate all traces of human civilization. Preserve the planet for future colonization. Krell bowed his massive head. It will be done. High Counselor, how much time do I have to prepare? The fleet departs in 10 standard cycles. Use overwhelming force. We want no survivors and no chance for the humans to send distress signals that might reach other silent zones. As the council dispersed, none of them noticed the small energy signature that appeared briefly at the edge of their sensor range. Prometheus had just completed its first successful FTL jump, emerging in empty space far beyond Pluto's orbit. Captain Chen stared at her sensor readings in disbelief. Control. Are you getting this data? We're seeing it too, Prometheus, came Dr. Webb's voice over the radio. What are we looking at? The sensors showed dozens of massive structures positioned in a rough sphere around the solar system. Each one was the size of a small moon and clearly artificial. Energy readings suggested advanced technology far beyond human capability. They're monitoring stations, Chen realized. Someone has been watching us. As the Prometheus moved closer to the nearest structure, its passive sensors picked up communications traffic. The ship's computer, enhanced with alien technology, began automatically translating the signals. Routine patrol report. No activity detected in the quarantine zone. Primitive species continue normal development patterns. No sign of FTL capability. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Quarantine zone. Primitive species. The implications were terrifying. Control. We need to get this information back to Earth immediately. We're not alone, and whoever is out here doesn't want us to know about them. Prometheus turned and jumped back toward Earth, carrying news that would change everything. Humanity was not just being watched, they were being contained. And according to the intercepted communications, a cleansing fleet was being prepared. On Earth, Elena Vasquez was still working late when her computer suddenly came alive with new data. The gravitational anomalies she had been tracking were moving. The objects were repositioning themselves into a tighter formation around the solar system. That's impossible, she whispered. Natural objects don't move like that. She didn't know that the concorded monitoring stations were preparing for the arrival of Krell's fleet. The stations were moving into position to provide real-time intelligence about human resistance capabilities. In the depths of space, Commander Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator. Around him, 200 warships prepared for the journey to Earth. To Krell, this was just another routine cleansing operation. He had eliminated 17 species over his long career. Humans would be number 18. Commander, his tactical officer reported, all ships ready for departure. Estimated travel time to target, 12 standard cycles. Excellent. Signal the fleet. We depart immediately. The massive Kron ships engaged their FTL drives and vanished into hyperspace heading toward Earth. None of them expected any resistance. In 3,000 years of galactic history, no species in the silent zones had ever managed to fight back effectively against a cleansing fleet. But humans had never been cleansed before. As Prometheus returned to Earth with its shocking discovery, and the Kron fleet began its journey through hyperspace, The galaxy was about to learn that some species don't go quietly into extinction. The Concordant expected silence from humanity. They were about to hear something very different. The emergency session at the International Space Research Center brought together world leaders for the first time in decades. President Martinez of the Americas Federation sat next to Premier Chen of the Asian Alliance. Chancellor Muller of the European Union faced Prime Minister Okafor of the African Coalition. Usually, these people could barely agree on trade policies. Today, they stared at the same terrifying data. Captain Sarah Chen stood before the assembled leaders, still wearing her flight suit from the Prometheus mission. The evidence is clear. We are being watched by an advanced alien civilization. They have classified us as primitives and placed us under quarantine. According to intercepted communications, a military fleet is coming to eliminate us. President Martinez leaned forward. How long do we have? Based on the energy signatures and communication patterns approximately 2 weeks before they arrive, the room erupted in panicked voices. Some leaders demanded immediate evacuation plans. Others insisted it had to be a mistake. Premier Chen slammed his hand on the table. Silence. Fighting among ourselves is exactly what got us into this situation. Captain Chen, what else did you discover? Sarah activated the holographic display showing the alien monitoring stations. Each structure is heavily armed and shielded, but their technology appears to be very old. The designs haven't changed in centuries, maybe millennia. They seem to rely on energy weapons and force fields. Dr. Webb joined the presentation. We've analyzed the alien technology from the crashed ship. It's incredibly advanced, but also rigid. There's no evidence of innovation or adaptation. Everything is built to exact specifications with no room for modification. What does that mean for us? Asked Chancellor Miller. It means they think in patterns, Ellen Vasquez explained, having been brought in as a consultant. Their entire approach to warfare probably follows established doctrines. They expect certain responses and prepare for specific scenarios. And humans don't think in patterns. President Martinez realized exactly. We adapt, we improvise. We use whatever works, even if it's not elegant or traditional. While Earth's leaders absorbed this information, the Kron fleet continued its journey through hyperspace. Commander Krell reviewed the tactical plans for the cleansing operation. It was simple and efficient. The fleet would emerge at the edge of the system, destroy any space installations, eliminate all spacecraft, and then systematically sterilize the planet. But Krell was troubled by something he couldn't quite identify. This would be his 18th cleansing operation. But something felt different. Maybe it was the recent political tensions within the Concorded. The Kron Empire had served the Vashtai faithfully for 3,000 years, but many of his people were beginning to question that relationship. Admiral Thax, Krell's second-in-command, approached the tactical display. Commander, I've been reviewing the intelligence reports on humans. Something doesn't add up. Explain. The monitoring stations report primitive technology and no FTL capability. But look at this. The highlighted sections of the report. The humans went from the first powered flight to nuclear weapons in 50 years. From nuclear weapons to space travel in another 50. Their technological advancement rate is unprecedented. Krell studied the data. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe humans are more advanced than the reports indicate. The monitoring stations are automated and may not be detecting everything. Impossible. Concorded technology is infallible. But even as Krell said the words, doubt crept into his mind. The Concorde relied heavily on established systems and protocols. What if those systems had blind spots? On Earth, the secret human response was taking shape. The discovery of alien technology had been kept hidden from the public, but every major government and military organization was now involved in a crash program to build defenses. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Colonel James Wright, a demolition expert, was studying the alien energy weapon designs when he had a realization. These weapons are designed to penetrate force fields and energy shields, he announced to the assembled scientists and military officers. But what about physical armor? old-fashioned steel and ceramic plates. Doctor. Webb looked up from his calculations. That's actually brilliant. Their entire weapons doctrine assumes energy-based defenses. They probably haven't encountered kinetic armor in centuries. Can we build ships that use physical armor instead of shields? Not just ships, Wright grinned. Missiles, fighters, defense platforms, everything. Let them fire their fancy energy beams at solid metal. The second breakthrough came from studying alien ship movements. The monitoring stations moved in predictable patterns, following established routes and schedules. Their ships would likely do the same. Admiral Rebecca Stone, the newly appointed commander of Human Defense Forces, studied the tactical projections. If they follow their standard patterns, they'll emerge here, here, and here. She pointed to locations on the holographic display. They'll expect to find primitive spacecraft and minimal resistance. What if we give them something else? Suggested Captain Chen. Such as a swarm. Not organized formations they can predict, but hundreds of small ships attacking from every direction at once. Within days, every shipyard on Earth and in the orbital stations was working around the clock. The designs were crude by alien standards, but effective. Human ships combined salvaged alien technology with human engineering. They were fast, heavily armored, and carried massive kinetic weapons. But the most important development was happening in the deepest levels of the asteroid facility. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been working on a theoretical project that suddenly became very practical. It's called a gravitational lens, she explained to the assembled team. By manipulating gravity fields, we can bend energy beams around our ships instead of trying to block them. How? Think of it like this. Their energy weapons travel in straight lines, but if we curve space around our ships, the weapons will follow that curve and miss us entirely. The technology was untested and dangerous. One mistake could create a gravitational anomaly that would destroy anything nearby, but they were running out of time. Meanwhile, word of humanity's situation had begun to spread to unexpected places. The intercepted alien communications were not just one way. Some of the signals reached other silent zones. On a hidden colony ship drifting in the void between stars, the last survivors of the Kirith species received the human transmissions. The Kirith had been cleansed by the Concorde 50 years ago, but a few thousand had escaped in secret ships. Elder Senna studied the decoded human messages. These humans discovered the truth. They know about the cleansing fleet. Should we help them? Asked Captain Vorik. We are too few and too far away, but perhaps we can send them information about concorded tactics and weaknesses. Similar conversations were taking place on hidden bases throughout the galaxy. The Concorde's cleansed species had not all died as intended. Some had survived in secret, waiting for a chance to strike back. Back in the Crone fleet, Admiral Thax was having his own doubts about the mission. He had served the Concordant faithfully for decades, but the more he learned about humanity, the more he questioned the cleansing order. Commander, he said to Krell during a private meeting, I've been studying human history and culture. They are remarkably similar to us in many ways and explained. They value courage, honor, and loyalty. They form strong bonds with their comrades. They fight fiercely to protect their homes and families. In many ways, they remind me of the Krone before we joined the Concordat. Krell was silent for a long moment. The Crown had once been an independent warrior race, proud and fierce. Joining the Concordat had brought peace and prosperity, but it had also meant following orders without question. What are you suggesting, Thax? I am suggesting that maybe some species deserve a chance to prove themselves instead of being eliminated simply for being strong. That is not our decision to make, isn't it? We are the ones carrying out the cleansing. We could choose to give them a chance to surrender and join the Concorde instead. Krell stared out at the stars rushing past in hyperspace. Such thoughts are dangerous, Admiral. The Vashtai expect complete obedience. The Vashtai expect many things. Perhaps it is time to question whether all of their expectations are reasonable. On Earth, the final preparations were nearly complete. Hundreds of human ships were positioned throughout the solar system, hidden among asteroids and behind planets. The gravitational lens technology had been successfully tested on a small scale. Kinetic weapons had been loaded and targeted, but the most important preparation was psychological. For the first time in human history, the entire species was united against a common threat. Old rivalries and conflicts were set aside. Every nation, every military force, every scientist and engineer was working together. Admiral Stone addressed the combined fleet commanders in a final briefing. Remember, they expect us to be primitive and disorganized. They expect us to panic and scatter when they arrive. Instead, we will show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Captain Chen, now commanding a squadron of the new human destroyers, checked her ship systems one last time. All units report ready. We're as prepared as we can be in 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, Stone repeated. 2 weeks to build a fleet, develop new technology, and unite the entire human race. Not bad. In the deep space monitoring station nearest to Earth, the automated systems continued their routine scans. They detected the increased activity in the solar system, but classified it as normal resource gathering and infrastructure development. The idea that a quarantine species could have developed military capabilities was not programmed into their analysis protocols. The Krone fleet continued its approach, confident in their superiority and the proven effectiveness of cleansing operations. They had no idea that they were flying toward a species that had spent its entire history learning how to fight impossible odds and survive. The galaxy expected humanity's silence in the face of extermination. They were about to learn that humans had a very different response to threats. The cleansing fleet was coming, but they would not find helpless primitives waiting for death. They would find a species that had turned 2 weeks of preparation into a declaration of war against the galaxy itself. The message came from deep space on an encrypted channel that shouldn't have existed. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood in the command center, staring at the transmission that had appeared on their screens just hours before the Crown fleet was scheduled to arrive. "This is Admiral Thax of the Krone Empire. I am transmitting on a frequency that will not be monitored by concorded forces. I have information about the approaching fleet that may help your species survive." The entire command staff was silent. Captain Chen was the first to speak. "It could be a trap, or it could be our first alien ally," Stone replied. "We need every advantage we can get." Dr. Webb ran the transmission through their analysis computers. "The signal is definitely coming from the approaching fleet, and the encryption method matches Crown military protocols we intercepted from the monitoring stations." Stone made the decision. "Open a channel. Let's see what Admiral Thax wants to tell us." The response came quickly. Thax's image appeared on the main screen. A massive gray-skinned alien with forearms and battle scars covering his hide. But his eyes held something unexpected. "Respect humans on Earth," Thax began. "I am Admiral Thax, second in command of the fleet coming to your world. I am speaking to you against orders because I believe what we have been ordered to do is wrong." Stone stepped forward. "Why should we trust you?" "Because I have studied your species, and I see in you what my people once were. You are warriors, but you fight for honor and protection of your own. The Concorded fears this because it threatens their control. What can you tell us about the fleet?" Thax transmitted detailed tactical information. 200 ships heavily armed with energy weapons and shielded. "Commander Krell is a skilled military leader, but follows established doctrine. The fleet will emerge in formation at the edge of your system and advance methodically toward your planet. How many ships will follow you if you decide to switch sides?" "I cannot say for certain. Perhaps 50, perhaps more. Many of my people are tired of being the Concordist weapon against innocent species." After the transmission ended, Stone called an emergency meeting of all fleet commanders. The human defense plan had been based on fighting alone against impossible odds. Now they had to consider the possibility of alien allies. "It changes everything," admitted Captain Chen. "With 50 Crown ships on our side, we actually have a chance of winning instead of just making them pay a heavy price." "If we can trust them," added Colonel Wright. This could still be an elaborate trap. Elena Vasquez had been quiet during the discussion, but now she spoke up. "I've been analyzing the psychological profiles of the alien species, The Crown values honor and personal loyalty above blind obedience. If this Admiral Thax has decided that the cleansing order is dishonorable, he'll follow through on his commitment. And if he doesn't, then we fight the battle we were already planning to fight. We lost nothing by accepting his help, but we could gain everything. While Earth prepared for the arrival of the Kron fleet, other developments were taking place throughout the galaxy. The hidden survivors of cleansed species had begun to stir. Ships that had been hiding in dark nebulae and abandoned systems started moving toward known concorded positions. The Vashtai High Council remained unaware of these movements. Their attention was focused on more immediate concerns. Reports were coming in of unrest on several concorded worlds. The Nexari had filed complaints about resource allocation. Even the normally obedient Omiri were asking questions about concorded policies. High Counselor Zethora floated in her private chambers, reviewing intelligence reports. The galaxy that had been stable for 3 millennia was showing signs of instability. Perhaps the cleansing of the humans would serve as a reminder to other species about the cost of defying concorded authority. She activated a communication link to Commander Krell's fleet. Status report. Krell's voice came through clearly, despite the vast distance. We will arrive at the target system in 6 standard hours. All ships, ready for cleansing operations. Excellent. Make this operation visible to our monitoring networks. Let other species see what happens to those who develop beyond their assigned limits. What Sthara didn't know was that her communication was being intercepted by Admiral Thax, who immediately forwarded it to Earth. The humans now knew that their battle was meant to be an example to the rest of the galaxy. Then let's give them an example they'll never forget. Admiral Stone declared, "The final preparations on Earth were unlike anything in human history. Every major asteroid in the solar system had been turned into a weapons platform. Ships were hidden behind planets and moons. The gravitational lens generators had been positioned at key points throughout the system. Dr. Elena Vasquez made the final adjustments to the gravitational control systems from her command post on Ceres. All lens generators are online and synchronized. When the Crown ships start firing, their energy beams will bend around our ships and be redirected back at them." "What about their kinetic weapons?" asked Stone over the communication link. "The gravitational fields will accelerate our projectiles and slow down theirs. It's not perfect, but it should give us a significant advantage." Captain Chen was aboard. Her flagship, the destroyer Defiance, positioned behind Mars with 50 other human ships. All units in position. "We're ready to show these aliens how humans fight." The moment arrived with little fanfare. Space simply rippled, and suddenly 200 massive alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Crown fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with energy shields and weapon arrays. Commander Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the sensor readings. Tactical report. "Scanning the Awam system now, Commander. Detecting multiple artificial energy signatures throughout the inner planets. Considerably more activity than expected for a primitive species. Elaborate." The readings suggest the presence of several hundred spacecraft and significant industrial installations. This is far beyond what was reported by the monitoring stations. Krell felt a cold certainty settle in his stomach. The humans were more advanced than anyone had realized. This would not be a simple cleansing operation. Admiral Thax approached from the communication station. "Commander, I'm receiving a transmission from the 3rd planet. They're requesting permission to surrender and negotiate terms." Krell studied his second-in-command carefully. "That's unusual. Most species either flee or fight desperately. They don't try to negotiate. Perhaps these humans are more intelligent than previous targets. Perhaps open a channel." Admiral Stone's image appeared on the main screen. She was wearing a military uniform that Krell recognized as indicating high rank. Behind her, he could see what was clearly a sophisticated command center. "I am Admiral Rebecca Stone, representing the unified military forces of Earth. We understand that you have been sent to destroy our civilization." "That is correct," Krell replied. "However, you have requested negotiation. The Concordant does not typically negotiate with species in silent zones. We're not asking the Concordant to negotiate. We're asking you personally as a military commander. You have a choice to make. Explain. You can proceed with your orders and attack a species that has never threatened the Concordant. Or you can stand with us against a system that treats entire civilizations as disposable. We know about the other species you've cleansed. We know about the hidden survivors who are tired of running and hiding. Krell was silent for a long moment. Around the bridge, his officers watched nervously. Finally, he spoke. What exactly are you proposing? A new way, an end to the cleansing programs. A galaxy where species are judged by their actions, not their potential threats. And if I refuse, Stone's expression hardens. Then you'll discover that humans don't die quietly. The transmission ended, leaving the Kron Bridge in tense silence. Admiral Thax stepped closer to Krell. Commander, she's right. We have a choice. We have orders. We have conscience. Krell looked around at his officers. These were Kron warriors who had served faithfully for decades, but he could see doubt in their eyes. The same doubt he felt himself. Signal the fleet, he finally said. All ships hold position. I need to think. But even as Krell wrestled with his decision, other forces were already in motion. Throughout the galaxy, the hidden survivors of previous cleansings were emerging from their hiding places. Ships that had been thought destroyed were powering up weapons and shields. The Karath survivors had reached the edge of the solar system and were approaching the Kron fleet from behind. Similar groups of survivors were moving toward Concordat installations throughout the galaxy. On Earth, Elena Vasquez watched the gravitational sensors with growing excitement. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching from multiple vectors. It's not just the Kron fleet anymore. Explain. At least a dozen different ship types are converging on this system. Some are approaching the Crown fleet, others are heading for the monitoring stations. Admiral Stone realized what was happening. The other species, the survivors, they're using our battle as a signal to start their own rebellion. In the Crown fleet, Admiral Thax was receiving similar reports. Commander, we're being approached by ships belonging to species that were supposedly cleansed decades ago. They're not attacking, but they're definitely taking positions around us. Krell studied the tactical display. The situation had become far more complex than a simple cleansing operation. This was rapidly becoming a galaxy-wide rebellion against Concordat authority. Sir, his communication officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the Karath ship approaching from our stern. The Kurth were cleansed 50 years ago. Apparently not all of them, sir. The transmission opened to show an elderly alien with deep, intelligent eyes. Commander Krell, I am Elder Senna of the Kirath. Survivors, we have come to offer our services to any crown ships that choose to stand with justice rather than tyranny. The Kirath serve no one. Today, we serve the idea that no species should be eliminated simply for existing. Will you join us? Krell looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of ships from multiple species converging on his position. The humans had somehow triggered a galaxy-wide revolution simply by refusing to accept their fate quietly. Admiral Thax, he said finally. Yes, Commander. Signal our ships. Any captain who wishes to stand with the humans and their allies may do so. Any who wish to follow original orders may also do so. Today, each Kron chooses for himself. The response was immediate. Ship after ship signaled their intention to join the rebellion. Within minutes, Krell found that over half his fleet had chosen to switch sides. Well, he said thanks. It appears we're no longer serving the Concordat. No, sir. Today we serve something better. As word of the fleet's defection spread through quantum communication networks, the galaxy began to realize that the age of concordant dominance was ending. The humans had done more than just prepare to defend themselves. They had sparked a revolution that would change everything. The battle hadn't even begun, and already the galaxy would never be the same. The first shot of the war came from an unexpected source. High Admiral Zethara, monitoring the situation from her flagship in a nearby system, had grown tired of waiting for results. When she saw that half the Crown fleet had defected, she decided to take direct action. Fire on the human planet immediately, She ordered Captain Veltar of the Vashtai destroyer Eternal Judgment. If the Crown will not do their duty, we will complete the cleansing ourselves. The Vashtai ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system and immediately began charging its planet. Killer weapon. The massive energy cannon was designed to crack planetary crusts and boil away atmospheres. Admiral Stone watched the new contact appear on her tactical display. All units, we have a Vashtai destroyer taking position for planetary bombardment. This is not a drill. All ships engage immediately. Captain Chen's voice crackled over the communication network. Squadron 7 with me. We take that ship down now. 50 human destroyers broke cover from behind Mars. Their kinetic weapons are already charging. The ships were crude compared to alien technology, but they were fast and carried devastating firepower. The Vashtai captain was confident in his ship's superiority. Energy shields at maximum, weapons charged, crew at battle stations. What could primitive human ships possibly do against concorded technology? He found out. When the first human missiles struck his shields, instead of energy weapons that could be deflected, the humans fired massive kinetic projectiles at incredible velocities. The shields designed to stop energy beams offered little resistance to solid matter, moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Shields failed, his tactical officer reported in shock. Those projectiles are penetrating our defenses. Impossible. Primitive species don't have kinetic weapons of that magnitude, but the humans had combined alien propulsion technology with human engineering. Their missiles accelerated continuously throughout their flight, reaching velocities that made them nearly unstoppable. Captain Chen's ship, the Defiance, fired its main gun. The projectile was a simple tungsten rod, but it hit the Vashtai destroyer with the force of a nuclear weapon. The alien ship's hull cracked and began venting its atmosphere. Target their weapon systems, Chen ordered. Don't let them fire on Earth. More human ships joined the attack. The Vashtai destroyer tried to return fire, but Elena Vasquez's gravitational lens system deflected their energy beams back at their own ships. The alien captain watched in disbelief as his own weapons fire curved around the human ships and struck his escorts. What manner of technology is this? He demanded. His science officer was frantically analyzing the sensor data. They're manipulating gravitational fields, sir. It's theoretically possible, but requires incredible precision and power generation. Can we counter it? Not with our current weapon system, sir. We would need to recalibrate everything. But there was no time to recalibrate. The human ships swarmed around the Vashtai destroyer like angry insects. Their attacks came from every direction at once with no pattern or formation that could be predicted or countered. Admiral Thax, watching from the Crown Fleet, was amazed by human tactics. They fight like nothing I've ever seen. No formation, no established doctrine, just pure aggression and adaptation. Commander Krell nodded grimly. This is what we were sent to cleanse, a species that refuses to fight by anyone else's rules. The Vashtai destroyer, Eternal Judgment, exploded in a brilliant flash of light, its planet-killer weapon overloading and detonating the ship's power core. The explosion lit up the entire solar system and sent a message that rippled across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. The humans had just destroyed a Vashtai warship. In the Grand Council chamber, High Counselor Zara received the news with shock and rage. How is this possible? Humans are supposed to be primitive. High Counselor, her aide reported nervously. We're receiving reports of uprisings throughout the galaxy. The destruction of our ship seems to have triggered coordinated attacks on our installations. What kind of attacks? The survivors, High Counselor. The species we thought we had cleansed are emerging from hiding. They're attacking monitoring stations, supply depots, and isolated patrol fleets. Zathara realized the magnitude of what was happening. The humans hadn't just defended themselves. They had somehow coordinated a galaxy-wide rebellion against concorded authority. Signal all fleets, return to home systems immediately. We are under attack. But it was too late to contain the situation. The news of humanity's victory spread faster than any fleet could travel. On world after world, subjugated species began to question concordant authority. In the solar system, the real battle was just beginning. The remaining Crown ships loyal to the Concorded had finally received direct orders to proceed with the cleansing, regardless of defections. Captain Mordak, commanding the loyal faction, addressed his remaining 100 ships. Warriors of the Crone Empire, we have served Concord faithfully for 3,000 years. We will not abandon our duty because of sentiment or doubt. Today, we cleanse this system and restore order to the galaxy. The loyal Crone ships advanced in formation toward Earth, their weapons charging and shields at maximum. They represented the finest military technology in the galaxy. Operated by experienced warriors who had never known defeat, Admiral Stone coordinated the human response from her command ship. All units engage at maximum range. Don't let them get close to the inner planets. The battle was joined across millions of kilometers of space. Human ships darted between asteroids and planetary moons, using their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the heavy weapons of the Kron fleet. The aliens fired massive energy beams that could vaporize mountains. But the beams curved around human ships thanks to the gravitational lens system. Their shields are adapting, Elena Vasquez reported from her control station. The gravitational fields are becoming less effective as they modify their weapon frequencies. Then we adapt too, Stone replied. All units switched to kinetic bombardment, overwhelmed their defenses with volume of fire. Hundreds of human ships opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of projectiles filled space, creating a deadly storm of metal and explosives. The Crone shields could stop energy weapons, but kinetic attacks from every direction at once was something their technology wasn't designed to handle. Admiral Thax watched the battle from his position with the defector fleet. Commander Krell, the humans are magnificent warriors, but they're going to lose. There are too many loyal ships, and Crone armor is too strong. Then we should help them, Krell decided. Signal our ships. We join the battle on the human side. Sir, that means fighting our own people. Yes, but it's the right thing to do. The defector Crown ships entered the battle, attacking their former comrades from behind. The Loyalist fleet found themselves caught between human forces and their own rebellious officers. The galaxy's most disciplined military force began to fracture under the strain of civil war. Captain Mordak raged as he saw Crown ships firing on each other. Traitors, you betray everything we stand for. We stand for honor, Thax replied over the communication channel. And there is no honor in destroying innocent species. The battle raged for hours. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Debris filled space around Earth, but slowly the tide began to turn. Human tactics and technology combined with Crown firepower and defector intelligence began to overwhelm the Loyalist forces. Captain Chen led a squadron of human ships in a desperate attack on Mordak's flagship. All ships concentrate fire on their command vessel. If we can take out their leadership, the rest might surrender. The human ships dove toward the massive Crown battleship, dodging defensive fire and launching everything they had. Kinetic projectiles slammed into the alien hull, while captured energy weapons added to the assault. Morek's ship began to list as systems failed throughout the vessel. All ships withdraw to hyperspace. We cannot win this battle. But as the surviving Loyalist ships prepared to retreat, they received an unexpected transmission. High Admiral Zathara herself appeared on their screens, her ethereal form radiating fury. There will be no retreat. The humans must be destroyed regardless of cost. I am bringing the full Concorded fleet to finish. What you could not. The transmission cut out, leaving the battlefield in stunned silence. The Concorded had never committed their full military might to a single operation. If they were bringing everything, it meant they considered humanity an existential threat to their empire. Admiral Stone addressed all ships in the system. You heard her. They're bringing everything they have. We need to prepare for the largest space battle in galactic history. Commander Krell spoke for the defector Crown ships. Admiral Stone, we stand with you. Whatever comes, we face it together. Similar commitments came from the surviving ships of cleansed species that had arrived during the battle. The Kirath, the Velnari, the Thosakai, and a dozen other species that the Concorded thought they had eliminated. Dr. Elena Vasquez was already working on modifications to their defensive systems. If they're bringing their full fleet, we need to think bigger. The gravitational lens technology could be scaled up to affect entire regions of space. How much bigger? Stone asked. Instead of just deflecting weapons, we could create gravitational anomalies that would trap their ships or crush them entirely. It's dangerous and untested, but it might be our only chance. As news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy, more and more species began to declare independence from conquered rule. The humans had proven that the Empire's forces could be defeated. Now, everyone wanted to join the fight. The galaxy was at war, and it had all started because one species refused to go quietly into extinction. The Concorded expected humanity's silence, but they heard the thunder of rebellion instead, and the thunder was just getting started. The Concorded Grand Fleet arrived 3 days later with a force that had never been assembled in galactic history. 5,000 ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, representing every species in the Empire, and led by High Admiral Zathara herself aboard the massive flagship Dominion of Stars. Admiral Stone stood in the command center looking at tactical displays that could barely contain all the red contacts. Well, they certainly got our attention. The fleet facing them was a monument to 3,000 years of galactic domination. Vashtai dreadnoughts that could destroy moons, Krone battleships bristling with weapons, Nexari carriers launching swarms of fighters, Amiri control ships coordinating the massive formation with perfect precision. Admiral Captain Chen reported from her ship. "We're being hailed by the enemy flagship. Put her through." High Admiral Thara's image appeared on the main screen. Her ethereal form seemed to glow with inner fury. "I am High Admiral Zara of the Vashtai. You will surrender immediately and submit to cleansing, or we will sterilize every planet in this system." Admiral Stone stepped forward. "I'm Admiral Rebecca Stone of the Human Defense Forces. We reject your ultimatum. This system is under our protection." "Your protection?" Zara laughed at the sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. "You are primitives who have existed for mere millennia. We have ruled the galaxy since before your species learned to make fire. And that's exactly why you're going to lose," Stone replied calmly. "You've forgotten how to adapt, how to innovate, how to grow. You've become so concerned with maintaining control that you've stopped evolving. We shall see." The transmission ended, and both fleets prepared for battle. But the situation was far more complex than a simple confrontation between human and concorded forces. Throughout the galaxy, the rebellion that humanity had sparked was growing into a full-scale galactic civil war. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked frantically to complete the gravitational weapon systems. "I need another 6 hours to finish the calculations. The energy requirements are enormous." "How enormous?" Stone asked. "We'll need to tap into the sun's energy output directly. One mistake and we could trigger a solar flare that would sterilize our own planet. And if we don't try, then 5,000 enemy ships will definitely sterilize our planet." While Elena worked on the gravitational weapons, other preparations were taking place throughout the solar system. Every asteroid base, every moon installation, every orbital platform was armed and ready. The human fleet had grown to nearly 800 ships, reinforced by defector vessels and survivors from cleansed species. But numbers alone wouldn't be enough. The concorded ships were individually superior to anything humanity could field. Victory would require something else entirely. Captain Chen had an idea. "Admiral, what if we don't fight their fleet directly?" "Explain." "Their weakness is coordination. That massive fleet requires constant communication and central command to function. What if we cut off their communications?" "How?" "Hit their command ship. Take out High Admiral Zebra and their central coordination. Without leadership, 5,000 ships become 5,000 individual targets." It was a desperate plan, but it might work. The human fleet would have to punch through thousands of enemy ships to reach the flagship. But if they could succeed, the entire concorded formation would collapse into chaos. Admiral Thax, commanding the defector Krone ships, supported the plan. The Concorde relies on rigid hierarchy. Remove the top of the command structure and the lower levels will be paralyzed, trying to determine who has authority. What about the rest of the galaxy? Stone asked. How is the rebellion progressing? The answer came from unexpected sources. Elder Senna of the Kirath survivors had been coordinating with other rebel groups through quantum communication networks. Admiral Stone Senna reported that uprisings are occurring on over 300 worlds. The Concordist local garrisons are stretched thin, trying to maintain control. Many are requesting reinforcements that cannot be spared. And their reaction? High Counselor Zara has recalled all military forces to defend core concordant worlds. They're abandoning their outer territories to concentrate on protecting their home systems. Stone realized what this meant. They're not just trying to destroy us. They're trying to make an example that will terrify other species back into submission. Exactly. If they can crush humanity publicly and decisively, they believe the other rebellions will collapse. Then we can't let them win. The battle began with a probe attack by Concord fighters. Thousands of small craft swept toward the human positions, testing defenses and gathering intelligence. Human interceptors met them in the space between Mars and Jupiter, and the first skirmishes revealed immediately that this would be unlike any previous space battle. The alien fighters used energy weapons and relied on shields for protection. Human interceptors used kinetic weapons and heavy armor. When the two forces clashed, alien shields proved inadequate against solid projectiles, while human armor absorbed energy weapon hits with minimal damage. Their fighters can't penetrate our armor, reported Squadron Leader Martinez. But their energy weapons are draining our power systems. We can't maintain this indefinitely. Fall back to the asteroid fields, Chen ordered. Use the rocks for cover and make them come to us. The alien fighters pursued the retreating humans into the asteroid belt where they discovered another nasty surprise. The asteroids themselves had been weaponized. As alien ships moved between the rocks, hidden launchers opened fire from multiple directions. High Admiral Zathara watched the engagement with growing concern. How are primitives achieving such tactical coordination? Their fighters move like a single organism. Her tactical officer studied the sensor readings. They're using short-range quantum communication, High Admiral, but the technology is completely different from our systems. It's crude, but effective. And their weapons. Pure kinetic energy, High Admiral. No energy signatures, no electromagnetic emissions, just solid matter moving at extreme velocities. Zathara realized that the humans had developed an entirely different approach to warfare. Every assumption the Concordat had made about space combat was being challenged by opponents who fought by completely different rules. Signal the fleet. Full advance. We end this now. The massive Concordat fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. 5,000 ships advancing in coordinated waves, their combined firepower capable of destroying planets. It was the most impressive display of military might in galactic history, and it flew directly into Elena Vasquez's gravitational trap, activating the gravitational lens network. Now, Elena announced from her control station on the Ceres. All stations report ready. Space itself began to warp around the approaching fleet. The carefully calculated gravitational fields created invisible barriers and channels that guided the Concorded ships into predetermined positions. The aliens found their formations disrupted as their ships were pulled off course by forces they couldn't see or understand. "What's happening to our navigation?" demanded Captain Kular of the Vashai cruiser Stella Wrath. "Unknown gravitational anomalies throughout the combat area." His navigator reported, "Our ships are being pulled off course by invisible forces. Hi." Admiral Zathara realized that the humans had somehow weaponized gravity itself. All ships emergency thrust to escape gravitational effects. But it was too late. The human fleet struck while the Concorded formation was in chaos. 800 human ships attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, their kinetic weapons tearing through alien formations that could no longer maintain coordinated defenses. Captain Chen led the assault on the flagship, diving through layers of defending ships with her squadron of destroyers, targeting their communication arrays, cut off their ability to coordinate the fleet. The human ships swarmed around the massive dominion of stars like insects attacking a giant. Their kinetic weapons hammered at the flagship's shields and hull, while electromagnetic pulse warheads knocked out communication systems. High Admiral Zthara found herself isolated on her own bridge as human weapons systematically destroyed her ship's ability to command the fleet. Signal all ships. Independent action authorized. Destroy everything in the system. But the signal never got through. Human jamming had cut off fleet communications, and the gravitational anomalies were interfering with quantum transmissions. 5,000 ships suddenly found themselves fighting as individuals instead of a coordinated force. Admiral Stone coordinated the human response from her flagship. All units exploit their confusion. Don't let them regroup. The battle raged across the entire solar system. Human ships used their superior mobility to stay ahead of alien weapons, while kinetic bombardment tore through shields designed for energy-based combat. The asteroid belt became a maze of wreckage as ships from both sides were destroyed in the chaotic fighting. But the most important battle was taking place around the Concorded flagship. Captain Chen's squadron had fought through waves of defenders and was now attacking the Dominion of Stars directly. All weapons concentrate fire on their main reactor, Chen ordered. If we can disable their power systems, we can capture their leadership alive. The human ships poured everything they had into the alien flagship. Kinetic projectiles punched through armor plating, while electromagnetic weapons overloaded power conduits. The massive ship began to list as systems failed throughout its hull. High Admiral Zthara watched her perfect fleet dissolve into chaos around her. Individual ships fought desperately, but without central coordination, they were being systematically destroyed by opponents who should have been helplessly primitive. "How?" she whispered. "How are they defeating us?" The answer came from Admiral Thax, whose defector ships had just joined the assault on the flagship because they never learned to accept defeat. You taught the galaxy to obey without question. They learned to question everything. The Dominion of Stars finally succumbed to the concentrated human assault. Its reactors overloaded, and the massive ship began breaking apart. But before it could explode completely, human boarding shuttles attached to the hull and began cutting through to the command sections. "This is Admiral Stone," came the transmission from the assault shuttles. "Hi, Admiral Zthara. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Your fleet is defeated and your ship is destroyed. Further resistance will only result in unnecessary casualties." Zthara looked around her ruined bridge. Half her crew was dead or unconscious. The other half stared at her, waiting for orders that would never come. "I surrendered," she finally whispered. The word spread through the remaining Concorded ships like wildfire. Their supreme commander had surrendered. The fleet that had never known defeat had been crushed by primitives who weren't supposed to have spaceflight. One by one, alien ships began standing down. Some tried to flee to hyperspace, but human pursuit ships followed them through FTL and continued the attacks. Others simply shut down their weapons and waited for instructions. The Battle of Sol was over. Humanity had won. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. On world after world, the rebellion against Concord rule exploded into open revolution. Species that had been subjugated for millennia threw off their chains and declared independence. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the captured Dominion of Stars, looking out at the wreckage of the greatest fleet in galactic history. Around her, representatives from dozens of formerly enslaved species were beginning to arrive. "What happens now?" asked Elder Senna of the Kirath. "Now we build something better," Stone replied. "A galaxy where species are free to grow and develop without fear, where strength is used to protect the weak instead of enslaving them." Commander Krell of the Defector Krone forces nodded approvingly. "The humans have shown us a new way. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn from them." Dr. Elena Vasquez was already working on plans for the future. "We'll need to establish communication networks, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and we'll need to explore beyond the galaxy." High Admiral Zthara's final transmission mentioned that the Vashtai have called for reinforcements from their home galaxy. Admiral Stone smiled grimly. "Let them come. The galaxy has learned to hear humanity's thunder, and thunder only gets louder during a storm." The Concorde was finished. Their 3,000-year empire had crumbled in a matter of days, brought down by a species they had dismissed as primitive. But in its place, Something new was being born. A galactic alliance based on freedom, cooperation, and the simple idea that every species deserved a chance to reach for the stars. The galaxy had expected humanity's silence when faced with extinction, and they heard the thunder of warships, the roar of revolution, and the birth cry of a new age of freedom. And in the depths of space beyond the rim of the galaxy, ancient sensors detected the electromagnetic signature of the Great Battle. The Vashtai homeworld had indeed heard the thunder, and they were already preparing their response. The war for humanity's survival was over. The war for the galaxy's freedom was just beginning. Foreign, foreign, speech, 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 vu quill.